Hello, everybody. Good day, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to A Course in Miracles 365, Awakening to Love. I'm your host, Tomas Garza, and I hope that everybody had a beautiful weekend. It was Easter weekend, and it's my understanding that in Canada, if you're in Canada, it's Easter Monday. So happy Easter Monday to you, if you're celebrating that in your part of the world. So I hope that you had a beautiful weekend, and if that meant doing absolutely nothing and relaxing and restoring yourself and regenerating, then I hope that's what it meant. And if it meant time with friends and family, then I hope that you got to enjoy that and that everyone else did too. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And if you happen to eat jelly beans and go on an Easter egg hunt and things like that, that's cool as well. Yeah, love it. So wherever you're joining me from today, and I know we've had people on from Europe and North America, Australia, New Zealand, all over the world, literally. So I want to welcome you, and I love sharing this time with you because we're talking about, yes, A Course in Miracles, but we're also talking about spirituality in general. So whether you are following along with this course or not, it makes absolutely no difference. You can still benefit hugely from this live stream. The principles that A Course in Miracles discusses and the way that it outlines them is designed to get us to practice universal spiritual principles. It introduces things to us, it presents them to us, maybe in a different way than we're used to, maybe in a way that looks different, that may feel different. It certainly uses terminology, words like forgiveness, atonement, in very different contexts. And it has its own special language as well. And they're universal spiritual principles that we're talking about. And today, as every day, is no exception to that. Now, where we are is we're in workbook lesson 57. And if you're just joining us for the first time, the workbook for students is one of three main components of A Course in Miracles. There's a text, and the text is a bit more abstract, actually, in language. What that does is it outlines some of the basic ideas and principles in A Course in Miracles. And then the workbook has us, well, work on them, so to speak. It has us practice these ideas. There's also a third component called the Manual for Teachers, which includes a clarification of terms. By the way, that's very handy. If you're ever confused about the course's particular language, that's a very helpful component, the Manual for Teachers. It's a list of numbered questions, and Jesus gives a response to certain questions that would come up. It's like a frequently asked questions here in the modern world. It's an FAQ. Yeah, it's called the Manual for Teachers. Really handy. And it's a lot of people's favorite component, by the way, of this entire course, of this entire thought system. It's really helpful. So I can recommend all three very highly. If you're curious about A Course in Miracles, let me know in the comments, because this is something that has absolutely changed and, well, revolutionized, transformed my entire life. It has been the basis of my own spiritual practice for the past 8 years or so. And during that time, it has just been marvelous for me. So I'm happy to share some of these transformations on the live stream with you. And, I sprinkle them in a little bit every day, but it's my honor and a joy to be able to share my experience with you. So let's go into then, why don't we, workbook lesson 57. This is really important stuff. What we're doing here is we're reviewing lessons 31 through 35 in the workbook. So we'll be doing a series of reviews for a few more days, and then later, by the end of this week, we'll be back into lesson 60 and back into the traditional workbook format, where what happens is we have one idea for the day and then practice it. So the practice for the review lessons works a little bit differently. There's a lot of material here, so let's jump in here. Lesson 31, I am not the victim of the world I see. Okay, yeah, I am not the victim of the world I see. Thank God, yeah, literally, yes. Thank you that we are not the victims of the world that we see. Now, the ego, some of us more than others, but the ego would love for us to feel like we're the victim, like we're cast into this sea of suffering and conflict and rage and war, and we're absolutely helpless to do anything about it. Just the way it is. Just the way it is. And that's what the ego would have us believe. The truth is we are not the victims of the world we see. The chains are loosened, and we can choose to walk away. If you're interested in tarot, or if you're into the tarot at all, the card that comes to my mind is the Devil card. In that, if you're familiar with the tarot, there's a male and a female image of people that are chained to the devil, and the devil can represent separation in this case, which is hell. In the Course in Miracles, there is no devil per se. That's something that we all made up. I never believed it when they tried to shove that down my throat in Sunday school, just calling it like I see it. Yeah, nah, never buying that. And in fact, that's something we made up in our separation and confusion as well, because as we know, only God is. So there's no opponent. In other words, there's no fallen angel who wears a red suit with horns and a pitchfork, all of that stuff, right? All those images. We're not the victims of the world we see. So in the tarot, I mean, the card means the chains that the man and the woman figure have are loose. That's the point. They're loosened. You can shirk them off, you can throw them away, and you can walk away from suffering, walk away from fear, walk away from constant sense of lack, of not being enough, of not having enough, not doing enough, of being insecure, less than. You can walk away from all of that. Take the chain off your head and walk away. The chains are loosened. We are not the victims of the world we see. So, lesson 32. I have invented the world I see. Yeah, we've been through this in the course here in the workbook so far. It's one of the foundational principles of this is that and it's the truth, is that our own creative power is so strong that it literally can make worlds. It's so strong that we can experience either heaven or hell. These are not places, by the way. They are experiences. Yeah. If we choose love, that leads to the experience that we call heaven. If we choose fear, it leads to the experience that we call hell, in other words, separation. So we experience that all of the time in the world, don't we? We've invented the world that we see. All we have to do, and the workbook tells us this, all we have to do is recognize this and we are free. So first, we must recognize that we've invented the world we see. You know what that means? We have that much creative power. We can undo what we made. We can absolutely choose not to recognize it and see something else instead. All right, which leads into Lesson 33, the next idea today. There is another way of looking at the world. Oh, yeah. And thank God, literally. Yeah. There is another way of looking at the world. How do we look at it normally? Well, we might have day to day beautiful experiences. Maybe you had beautiful experiences with friends and family yesterday on Easter. Maybe you're having that today, right now, with friends, family, or just by yourself. Maybe you had a beautiful morning cup of coffee or tea. Maybe you had a beautiful meditation or a walk or a yoga practice. Maybe if you live on the beach, you went down to the beach and enjoyed the tranquility of the ocean, the sound of the waves, the calls of the seabirds, all of that. Yeah. So what happens in the world is that's not the purpose that we generally ascribe to it. We see a world of conflict. We see a world of fear. We're in the midst of a pandemic. All you have to do to realize that people are confused and afraid is turn on your social media feed. Yeah. And people that are supposedly like-minded are, because they have a platform to do so. We all do. Because they're ripping each other apart. They're calling each other paranoid. They're calling each other confused and afraid, sheeple. Yes, herd followers, all kinds of crazy stuff that is not love. Lashing out at somebody is not an act of love, is it? We all know this because we all can feel what is loving and what's not. We can say that we're confused about it, but really it's quite simple. It's quite simple, and we have the ability to choose that. So we don't have to see the world as a place of struggle, strife, and fear. We don't have to see it that way. We could see it as a place where the Son of God finds his freedom. That's right out of the language of the workbook. In other words, we could see this, all of the things that are happening in the world, as raw material for our own awakening. We could choose to see things differently. There is another way of looking at the world. There is something beyond the purpose that we've ascribed to it, which is struggle, 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 work, maybe earn some money, have a nice car, nice relationship, and, have beautiful sex with somebody sometime, take a walk on the beach, right? Make more money, show up, check your email, check your social media feed, blah, 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 until you die, right? It doesn't sound like much fun when put that way, does it? No. Yeah, it isn't. We could choose to see it differently. There's another way of looking at it, and that is a place where we wake up, the place where we extend love, the place where we extend and then find forgiveness. It's the place where we recognize our unity with God. We could see it differently. This is a place where we find our freedom. Now, if we do that, if we choose to look at the world differently, then we're going to have a completely, vastly different experience, aren't we? Next idea, which is workbook lesson 34, I could see peace instead of this. Yeah. Would you not rather see peace instead of conflict, fear, hatred, struggle, strife, suffering, pandemics, people roasting each other on social media for their own choices related to said pandemics? Yeah. We could choose to see peace instead of this. And if we make that choice and make it again and again, consistently and persistently, it leads to the experience of peace. And you have had that in your life, I know, because you're watching this live stream. This does mean that you've chosen to experience peace quite a lot. Now, we could each and every one of us choose yet again in the present moment to experience peace instead of conflict and suffering. We all do need to maintain that vigilance. I need to maintain that vigilance. Just because I'm here on the network talking to you does not mean that I don't have to retain the same amount of vigilance to make sure that I'm choosing peace as often as I remember to do that. Very important. And the last idea for today, review wise, which is lesson 35, my mind is part of God's. I'm very holy. In other words, I share the peace of God. Yeah, period. You can read the comments if you like. That's really all I have to say about that. Share the peace of God. So you are. So you are deep down. There's a part of us that knows this. No matter how much we may try to resist, no matter how much we may try to run and hide and distract ourselves, part of us knows deep down with crystal clarity and certainty, we are the peace of God. God's will is our will. We will to go back home, so to speak. It's not a place, just a phrase. We wish to go home. We wish to awaken, awaken to love, awaken to the presence of who we really are, living, breathing experience. Each of us wishes that, whether you choose to say so or not, doesn't matter. Reality, who we really are, has never gone anywhere, no matter how many detours we may have taken. This is all a very beautiful thing, and I hope that you're finding this inspiring. This is a unique presentation of global spirituality, world spirituality that is very, very inspiring. This, it doesn't matter what background you come from, everyone has the same ability to awaken. And it is, in fact, each of our destiny, which is beautiful. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. So let's see who's tuning in here today. I bring up the comment thread here. And it looks like we have several people online here. So I want to just take a moment while we've got time here and recognize all of you. Hello, Deirdre. And it looks like Lakita and Isabel. Robert, how are you? Thank you all for the shares. And yes, always choose peace. Oh, yeah, Robert, you got a great point here about people's Facebook feeds. I mean, I just can't help but bring this up, right? Because here we are on Facebook, yeah. And the internet is a beautiful tool. It enables us to communicate with each other. Robert, you're in Romania. I'm in Arizona in the United States. And without this technology, we wouldn't have the ability to communicate with each other. So wherever you all are from here, yeah, we can use this tool to disseminate love and extend love and peace and joy and happiness and unity. Or we can pick up our Facebook feed and just vent. Right. And, this is just fresh on my mind because earlier this morning, as I was looking at some positive pictures, in comes the negativity. And, other than limiting our screen time, there's very little we can do to keep from being bombarded by that. Even if it's not social media, you just turn on the news and we've got people roasting other people. You've got conflicting opinions, all of that. Yeah. And so, Robert, I'll just share that I'm just going to say this because everyone knows. In the United States, where I reside, we had a presidential election last year, as everyone in the world knows. That does mean, as it means most anywhere in the world, that people choose sides and they fight with each other like dogs, like rabid dogs. Hatred, 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 fear, 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 doomsday scenario, one after another. And I have unfollowed a lot of people on Facebook Actually on both sides of the equation for spewing hatred against somebody else. Now, everyone's got their opinions on this, and I choose not to use this platform to delve into the relative warrant of anyone's position or anything, just to use this as an example of the way the ego operates. The ego wants us to choose a side, pick one side or another. If you're not for me, you're against me. Eye for an eye. Yeah. All right, I may read that in the Bible, but how'd that get there? I mean, really? Perfect love doesn't do revenge, does it? Yeah. So I have unfollowed a lot of people on Facebook. Yeah. Blocked some people. It's a good tool to have, isn't it? Yeah. So, and hello, everybody else that's watching and tuning in. And yeah, I'm not a politics fan either. However, I do have to say that I've traveled the world and people ask me all kinds of questions. So, um, I have stayed informed on that. But, it's really unfortunate. It's the ego in operation. I mean, there are political systems in the world, there are economic systems in the world that pit people against each other. And conflict is hell. It is. You might find that you don't mind it, but it's separation. So what we're talking about in spirituality and A Course in Miracles is ultimate truth, isn't it? It's ultimate truth. There is no separation of any kind. So anything that tries to pit us against each other, like political and economic systems, like borders, that sort of thing, is a tool of the ego. And it's part of the chain that we could just slide off of our necks and walk away. So I don't know about you, but I choose to remove that chain and walk away. It's a choice that we can all make every moment of every day. So really, really wonderful. And oh yeah, so Robert's still going to be traveling all around the world. I love that. It's so cool that everybody is from all over the planet, isn't it? I mean, I am just I'm just really thankful for modern technology. Yeah, like many of you, I grew up, unless you're very young, unless you're in your 20s or teens watching this, you grew up without the internet. And I grew up in the 1970s and 1980s before personal computers. We had 4 channels of television in the 1970s, and we literally played with sticks and rocks outside. So we've come a long way in terms of technology. And again, this technology, like anything else in the world, can be used to disseminate love, or it can be used to disseminate fear. So right in line with today's lessons, we could choose to look at the world differently. We could see it as a battle to be won, or we could see it as a place to extend love and to find, finally, our own freedom. It's a choice. So what I want to do here is I thank all of you for tuning in today. If I didn't get to your comments, I know there's a bunch of them here today, and I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. I will look at those and I will get back to them later on today. And again, this is daily. So I thank you for tuning in today, for all the shares, likes, and comments. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And let's all choose love, please, right? For our own sake and for the sake of everybody else. Really, really an important message. So again, if this resonates with you, feel free to share this out. Tell people about Enlightened World Network for sure, as the entire network is full of beautiful programming. And I will see you all right back here again tomorrow. Thank you all for joining me.